Hi guys, this video is a skills focused video and we are going to focus on describe and explain questions. So we're going to do that in the context of describing and explaining the distribution of farming in the UK. So this links really clearly to our farming topic, which is also known as rural change. Okay, the first question then is, look at map F, describe the distribution of farming within the UK. So first of all, we need to think about what this question actually wants us to do. So we'll break it down. Okay, so the first part of this question says look at map F. That means you need to look at the information on your page, because if you're in your exam, you might have two diagrams or two maps on a page, and you need to make sure that you are looking at the correct one. So the map we have on the screen says F at the top left, so we know we're looking at the correct map. The first real command word that we've got in the question is describe. Now describe, remember, means that you are going to say what you can see. So what you can see on this map. You are not going to explain why you see the patterns on the map. So you are not going to say any kind of terms like this is because or due to. We're just saying what we can see. Distribution. We need to remember that this word means describe how something is spread out or the pattern of something. So here we are going to describe how the different types of farming are spread out in the UK. And we can do that by saying where types of farming are found, but also where they are not found. And lastly, we need to check the number of marks available. This is a 4-mark question, which means we need to give 4 describing points. Remember, even if you do give an explanation in this answer, you will not get any marks for it because this question is only going to give you marks for describing points. So there are several bits of knowledge we also need to bring in to help us answer this question, and that's our knowledge about the relief and regions of the UK. So the first map that I've just put up on this screen, or the second map, shows us the relief of the UK, so the shape of the land. And we can see that the yellow, lighter areas, they are our upland areas, our hillier areas, and the green areas, they are lower in relief, so closer to sea level, and they tend to be flatter. And we're going to potentially discuss that in our answer. So if we look at the map F, you can now see that I've put some red areas on, and they are just linked to our upland areas. We also need to have a bit of knowledge of the regions of the UK, and this is the bottom right map that I've shown. So unfortunately here Scotland has just been described as Scotland, but we obviously have the northwest of Scotland, the northeast of Scotland, or the east of Scotland, and the south of Scotland. England is split up into different regions though. For example, the East Midlands, the West Midlands, the South East, the South West, East Yorkshire and Lincolnshire, and we might discuss that in our answer. Wales and Northern Ireland, they're just classed as those areas. Okay, so we now know what this question means, and we know a bit of the knowledge that we need to bring in potentially to answer this question. So we're now going to crack on and answer the question. And sometimes with questions where you've got to describe a distribution shown on a map, it's helpful to use the key of the map to help you organise your answer. So in this answer, I'm going to start off by talking about arable farming because it's found at the top of the key. Then I'm going to talk about mixed farming, cattle farming and hill sheep farming last. So we've got almost a checklist here with our key. So let's look at arable farming. It is shown with orange on the map, and we can see that arable farming is mainly found in the east of England and with a tiny little bit of it in Northern Ireland. There is no arable farming occurring in Wales or Scotland because we cannot see any orange on the map. So that's what we need to write. And here I have my first point that I am giving. Well, actually 2 marks here. So first sentence, arable farming is mainly found in the east of England. Tick, I get a mark for that. No arable farming occurs in Wales or Scotland. Second tick, I've said where arable farming is found and where it is not found, and I've gained 2 marks there. Let's now look at mixed farming then. So mixed farming has a greater distribution across the UK. We can see that mixed farming occurs on the east coast of Scotland, in the East Midlands, so the centre of England, and in the south of England. We can also see that in Northern Ireland, a large proportion, so a large area of Northern Ireland is taken up by mixed farming. So if we look at the 2 points we've given there, first sentence, mixed farming occurs on the east coast of Scotland, in the East Midlands and in the south of England. 1 mark there. And then, because we've said a large proportion of the farming found in Northern Ireland is mixed, because we've looked specifically in Northern Ireland, we've talked about the amount of farming there, we get a 2nd mark. Okay, we're on to cattle farming now. So we can see that cattle farming is found more in kind of western and central of the UK than it is on the east coast. So our point could be cattle farming is found in many areas of the UK. It is, especially in southwest Scotland, the West Midlands and southwest England. Get a mark, nice and easy. So we're now on to our last type of farming, and this is hill sheep farming. So you might have noticed a pattern between where hill sheep farming is and where our upland areas are shown on the top right map. It almost matches up perfectly with our hill sheep farming on map F and our yellow areas on the relief map. So we're going to talk about this here. So we're going to say hill sheep farming is mainly located in upland areas of the UK and on the west coast of Scotland. Excellent, we get a mark. Then we can also talk about where hill sheep farming is not found, because there's a massive area of England, the southeast, where farming is not found. So we can say there is no hill sheep farming in the southeast of England. And we could have also talked here about the east of England as well. Alrighty, so we've now got our full answer. And if we look at where the ticks are, we can see that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 ticks. So we've actually gone into more detail here because this question was only worth 4 marks. And in your exam, you might not want to give an answer that is quite this detailed, but it's always good to try and give 5 or 6 points, because then we've got a little backup in case one of our points isn't quite as detailed as the examiner would like. Now you might have noticed that as I answered this question, I used bullet points. But I haven't just written a bullet point and a couple of words. I've just used a bullet point to split up the 4 parts of my answer. So I've put a bullet point and then I have written a paragraph about arable farming. I've done the same with mixed farming, cattle farming and hill sheep farming. And this is really helpful for me because it means that if I'm writing stuff really quickly under time pressure, for example in an exam, I can quickly look back at my work and check that I've written enough. So some people might do each point as a bullet point, so the sentence where I would get each mark, or you might choose to group a couple of points together with the 4 areas of your answer like I have done here. Okay, so we're now going to think about a typical explain question for the farming topic. So the question is, look at map F, explain the distribution of farming in the UK. And usually in National 5, explain questions are worth more marks than described questions. So this question is worth 6 marks. Okay, let's break down this question then and remind ourselves what is it asking us to do. So again, it starts off with look at map F. We're already quite familiar with map F, so we're going to know that it's this map. Okay, explain. Now we need to explain and say why the different types of farming that we've identified are found in different parts of the UK. So we're actually going to use some of the points that we gave in the describe question to work as a little introduction for our explaining points. Distribution, again, just means the spread of farming, but we now need to link the spread of farming, so the locations of farming, to differences that we find across the UK, for example, climate or relief. Remember, relief is the height of the land. And this question is worth 6 marks. That means we need to give at least 6 explaining points. Even though we're going to do a little bit of describing to help us answer this question, you will not get marks for those descriptions. You will only get marks for saying why. Alrighty, on the screen you might have noticed that there's some information around map F. This is going to potentially help us answer this explain question, and we're going to focus on the physical factors that are shown in this lilac and yellow box. So we're going to work down the key again like we did for the describe question, and that means we're going to start off with arable farming. Now, arable farming, like we said in our previous answer, is found in the east of England. And we need to say that first, but we're not going to get a mark for that. The mark comes from saying why arable farming is found in the east of England. And the first reason why arable farming is found here is because the climate is warmer and drier, which means that our arable crops are going to grow well. And we can see that on the screen here. So the point that I have highlighted in green is our describe point. We have to give it to give context to our answer and to set up our explanation, but we will not get a mark for it. My explanation here, so this is because the climate here is warmer and drier. That isn't always going to get us a mark because we've not explained why a warmer and a drier climate is good for arable farming. We get the mark where we say so. And here I've said, so arable crops grow well. So the red bit that I've highlighted are the words that are going to get us the mark. And I've given a second point here where I'm talking about the east of England. And that's that there are also deep fertile soils which help crops grow well. And again, to get the full mark, I've said why deep fertile soils are good for arable farmers. So it's because they help crops grow well. Now I can also give a second point here. So I'm going to say that no arable farming occurs in Wales or Scotland. I have to say it, that's a descriptive point and I'm not going to get a mark. And my explanation is this is because the climate is not suitable as it is too cold and wet. So I've got my mark there because I've said why the climate is not suitable. And then I've said, and much of the land is too steep for machinery. So I'm linking my knowledge of upland areas and I'm saying that because they're upland areas and it's steep, it's too steep for machinery. Okay, let's move on. So we've written here 1, 2, 3, 4 sentences and we've managed to gain 3 marks. Excellent. We have gained half of the marks for our question already. Okay, I'm not going to talk about mixed farming because I think that I can get more marks by talking about arable, cattle and hill sheep farming. So it's okay to sometimes miss out a little bit of the map if you're getting enough points elsewhere. So we're going to talk now about cattle farming. So my descriptive point is that cattle farming is found in many areas of the UK, especially southwest Scotland, the West Midlands and southwest England. I've had to say where those types of farming are found, but I'm not going to get a mark. I am going to get a mark now though, because I'm going to explain why cattle farming is found in those areas. So this is because the western half of the UK has a wetter climate, so the lush grass cattle need grows well. So I've said it's got a wetter climate and then I've said why a wetter climate is good for cattle farming. And that's because more rain means the grass that cattle need to eat grows better and so they thrive more. Okay, I'm going to get another mark here as well. So cattle farming is not found in upland areas because the cows, especially dairy cattle, cannot cope on the steep slopes. So I've identified that actually our upland areas of Scotland and the UK, which are shown on our top right map, they are not where cattle farming is found, and I've said why that is. All right, last area then, we're going to talk about hill sheep farming. So hill sheep farming is located mainly in upland areas of the UK and the west coast of Scotland. Excellent, we know that, we can see it on the relief map. Okay, now we need to explain it. This is because these areas have a cold climate and poor grass, which sheep can cope with unlike cattle. So here I've said why it doesn't matter that there's poor grass. I'm going to get a second mark because I'm going to say sheep can also cope on the steep slopes found in this area. So I've used points that I've given when I've been talking about the cattle farming, and I've then changed them and linked them to sheep farming to help me form my answer. So I didn't really need to know much extra knowledge from the previous points I've given about cattle farming. I'm also going to go on and get even more marks now because I'm going to talk about where hill sheep farming is not found. So, no hill sheep farming is found in the southeast of England. Great description, I don't get a mark though. I get a mark because I've said this is because the land is flatter and the climate is warmer, so that land is used for arable farming, which is more profitable. If I had just said there, this is because the land is flatter and the climate is warmer, so my black words, I may not have got the mark. What I've done is I've then explained why those things are better for arable farming, because I've said it's more profitable. So really, the kind of red points that we've got in this answer are the points that guarantee our marks, but also help make sure that we've got an A-level answer. All right, let's have a look at our final answer then. It's quite a long one. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 marks here. And the question was only worth 6 marks. So I could take out one of these points. But what's a good way to think about trying to get our marks is by thinking, okay, I'm going to talk about arable farming, cattle farming and hill sheep farming. So I might try and get 2 points for each of these. And maybe one of them I'll give an extra point as a backup point. Alright, so in this video we were looking at describe and explain questions relating to farming in the UK. But the sentence structures and the approaches that we have used to answer these questions about farming can be used for any of the topics that we cover.